What's going on, guys? Welcome to Monsters and Madmen, the channel where we talk all things horror, the people who live it, and the legends that refuse to die. My name is Brett, and today we are joined by an actor whose face fans of The Walking Dead should instantly recognize for his role in Axel in season three. He was in films such as The Devil's Rejects, Rob Zombie's Halloween, many more. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the channel the incredibly talented Lew Temple. Lew, thank you so much for doing this today.
Hey, Brad. It's nice to be on Monsters and Madmen. Thank you for having me, and we're excited. I'm trying to bring a little sunshine from the West Coast to you, the East Coast. But I'm guessing that you're in your total spring and summer vibes already, right?
You would think here in Pennsylvania, this is the hottest day we've had in I don't know how long. It's like almost 90 here today. This is
Woo!
coming off like
Yay!
60 degrees a few days ago, so you never know what's going to happen.
Let's break out the hot dogs, have a barbecue, hit the swimming pool, get out to the lake, get it while the getting's good, right?
That sounds like a plan to me.
That's very cool.
So, so I was doing some research on you before I had you on the channel here, and I found out that before you got into acting, you had a little career in baseball.
Love baseball.
Yeah,
Sometimes I still dream that I play, and it's my favorite dream. It's the same dream I've been having since I was 12, like walking into the stadium. It's weird because it's Yankee Stadium. It's still Yankee
yeah,
Stadium. And I think that's because I grew up with the lore of of the Yankees just being historical, but
right.
they're not my favorite team. The Braves are. But I worked for the Mariners in Seattle and the Astros in Houston. So I like those two teams, but I'm a Braves guy. And recently, in the last 3 or 4 years, I did a movie in Toronto and I became a Blue Jays fan, which was very cool last year because they went to the World Series, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, but I have a lot of friends who are Philly fans, not too far from you, Brett. So,
Okay.
but I love baseball, and I would still say that would be my passion. So, how about this? Like, ask me a question: Oscar or an at bat in the major leagues?
Who do you pick?
I would take the at bat in the major leagues for sure. Yeah. I still have more of a passion to baseball than I do acting. How's that?
Oh, really?
I do, yeah.
Well,
But
I was
I'm
actually
very fortunate to have, so having played high school, college ball, minor league ball, worked at the big league level,
yeah,
coached, um, having been an actor on television, in film, studios, indies, as you mentioned, The Walking Dead, something very visible,
yeah,
being parts of films that have, we won an Oscar for Rango. I did that.
yeah.
Uh, I've had experience to have those experiences is really great. Two passions to have two passions and to get to swing at the highest level of those two is pretty incredible. So I'm very grateful.
Absolutely. So I was going to ask you how was it transitioning from baseball into
That's a
acting?
good question. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great question. I didn't really understand, in sports and a lot of times in music, it's very rote. It's reps. So you repeat. You're working on the skill set continually. You're taking a lot of swings and batting practice, a lot of ground balls. You're working on your footwork. If you're a musician, you're working on your scales. You're working on your chords, your progressions, and acting. There's definitely a skill set, and you are working on it. But in the moment, all that work needs to just not show up so it seems very
sure.
natural. So you can overwork, for instance, learning your lines. And it took me a minute to understand that that was something that I was doing. And then they come out kind of wooden or rehearsed and they don't sound real. And
Naturally,
and so. I had to get around that. And I think it's kind of a good life lesson, or I like to think of it as such, because if you know something, your brain's really good. It knows it.
Yeah.
And you're going to have um, this desire to keep working on it, but the reality is you know it. And so put your pen down, go take a nap and relax and rest.
Yeah.
Relaxation or sleep will serve you better than cramming or overworking something. That's like term papers or speeches or um, SAT tests, any of those things. So
Yeah.
if you think you know it, you do know it. And I find that to be absolutely the case with my work today. I can pretty much pick up a script and look at my work a couple of times and know it. And that
Yeah.
gives me the freedom then to not spend any time learning it, Brett, but spend more time tweaking it for intention. I like to focus more on the intention of how I'm serving the story. So,
Right.
long answer to your question, what's the difference between acting and baseball? Hey, how about this? In baseball, that's mano y mano, or it is it's kind of real. So you don't really know what's going to happen.
Right.
He could beat you, you could beat him. Um, at the end of page 96 or 102 of a script, you know what's going to happen every time, or
Right.
like it's
Yeah.
scripted, and so that's kind of false um, bravado, so to speak. So what
Right.
I like about the drama in sports is you don't know actually. Um, Sort of like these MMA fights. I'm not sure we knew. We kind of did, but I'm not sure we thought it would be 15 to 17 seconds that Rousey Carano fight was going to be done. Um,
I was actually
but we were
saying,
hoping that it
I'm very
was,
glad I chose to watch a movie that night over the fight. I was
yeah, we were
debating. So.
hoping it was going to be something different. But for sure, when we do these television shows, when you're working, when you're a part of the building team, you know how it's supposed to happen. Now there are
Right.
things definitely that in the confines of those frameworks that organically occur that you did not predict.
Yeah.
So long answer to your question.
Answer there.
Apologies.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, perfect. That's what we're looking for. Great, great statements. Um, so early on in your career, what would you say was the biggest struggle trying to break into the industry?
It was kind of a strange time when I broke in because we were still building around what at that time was deemed middle America advertising. So it was a little formulaic and kind of cookie cutter, cut and dry. The leading man was, kind of a jock, clean cut looking, square jawed, tall, handsome dude.
Yeah.
And I didn't fit any of that. Okay. So this didn't, and I couldn't change this. And so it felt like there wasn't a seat at that table in television or film for me. So I spent a lot of time in theater, garage theater, local theater, um, professional theater in Houston, Texas, because that's where I got to work. I got to dance, man. I got to sing, and
Yeah.
um, and I got to play on those stages. Whereas film and television weren't really looking for me. And then interestingly, um, so I wasn't so caught up in the, and this is in Texas, by the way, Houston. I wasn't caught up in the idea of like, how am I going to get? I was just I I had resigned the fact that I'm acting and I'm acting on stage and that's good enough, or that's as good as it's going to get, or it can't get any better. And I'm very happy doing this, and I'm doing all right, and was doing some voiceover work. And then a commercials director, Matt. Harrison out of New York City came into Texas to shoot a Texas lottery commercial for the lottery ticket. And he
Okay.
cast me. I auditioned, he cast me. And that was the first time that somebody in the film and television industry had taken notice of me. And what that did is it changed my view of the possibility of that. And it gave me confidence that, hey, maybe there is a place for me. And then the next thing I knew, I was getting opportunities that I hadn't previous, only because I had opened myself up to be available. Like, you know, I I was then went up and did Walker Texas Ranger, the Chuck Norris, the OG
Yeah.
in Dallas, as a perp, and there were tons of roles then that all of a sudden opened up, and the whole industry had became available. Whereas I think myself and my agents just felt like, well, there's not really a place for you, but there was. And I guess the moral of that story is there's always a place, and we've evolved so much that we're so far from sticking to the norm in building stories that that should never stop anyone. I don't look like what they
Absolutely.
like. I don't talk like what they like. I don't act like what they like. My thing is, yeah, your thing is exactly what they're looking for. Believe me.
Yeah.
And so if I can say anything, any advice I would give to a young actor or a young musician or a young artist or a young writer or a young director or somebody getting started in any endeavor is to be yourself and tell your story. You'll be compelled to try to give everybody what you think they want. And the reality is, mostly people are looking to know you. And
Yeah.
I know it's a very hard concept to kind of grasp because you're auditioning for Axel on The Walking Dead. But the truth is, I had to bring Lew to Axel to The Walking Dead.
Yes.
They wrote Axel. They knew who he was, but they didn't know who Lew was, right?
Sure.
So it took me a long time to learn that, and I think you can learn that way faster than I did. I tried to be all things to all people all the time because I
Yeah.
thought, you know, that's what I was doing, song and dance. And that actually doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be hired to be British because I'm not, right?
You're right.
There's a lot of great British actors that can go be British. And
Yeah.
so if you just put it in the confines of, I'm, I've learned now through baseball, actually, your weaknesses are there and you can improve them, but you're not going to get hired for your weakness.
Yeah.
If you don't shoot free throws well, nobody's hiring you to be a free throw shooter if you're a 3-point banger, So I say work on your strengths and get them even stronger and let your weakness have its way try to underexpose your weakness. Anyway, another long answer. Sorry.
Oh, that's fantastic. Very, like I said, very well said. Very inspirational stuff. And this is a horror channel, right?
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
and one of the things that got me so into the horror genre is what you just said, is that it's a step away from those industry norms. Um, you have your jocks, you have your pretty boys, your pretty girls, but they usually get killed off, and you know what I mean. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I want to jump into the horror side of your career for a bit because you've worked on some really cool projects. Rob Zombie's Halloween 31, The Devil's Rejects, alongside one of the most recognizable names in horror, Rob Zombie himself. Was horror something you naturally gravitated towards, or did that just happen naturally as you were working?
Yeah. Not at all. I had never been like you, a horror fan.
Yeah.
I had seen horror movies, and like every child, I was fascinated, frightened, um, you know, thrilled, and nervous. We like that feeling. What's under the bed, and so I did like it in general,
Yeah.
but but those were typically things like Dracula and Frankenstein, the Wolf Man. They weren't so much these terror like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Hills Have Eyes. Um, you know, the basics. I think I had a basic understanding of the horror genre, but certainly wasn't um, as fanatic as like
Yeah.
or well versed as someone is as yourself. So I when I came to Hollywood, um, I had a certain resume that allowed me to get into rooms. People were starting to want to sort of get to know me a little bit, or were at least um, inviting me into audition. And one of them was a casting director who had cast me in Texas in a movie called Serving Sarah.
Okay.
Um, and this was Monica Mickelson, and she was casting Rob Zombie's movie, The Devil's Rejects. And I had never, Brett, I'd never read anything like this. The first page is some giant dragging a naked corpse of a girl through the
Yeah.
forest. I'm like, I don't even think you could film this. What the hell is this? Uh, and it was way beyond when I finished, like, I couldn't believe they were making a movie like that. And so I'd
Yeah.
never read anything like that. Okay.
Right.
And, and they wanted me to come in and audition for Adam Banjo. And so, I did because it was a great opportunity. And I recognized like there were really cool people reading for that role, and it was exciting. And then I just went on thinking, what's the next opportunity? And then Monica called and said, well, Rob liked your audition, and it it could go your way. And I got a little nervous, so I called
Yeah.
my friend Walton Goggins, who had done House of a Thousand Corpses,
Yeah.
and I said, dude, I'm nervous. This guy Rob Zombie, I'm a good Christian boy from the South, and this devil worshiper is going to hire me. And he goes, "You're an idiot." He said, "Just goes, you're going to go have an incredible artistic experience with Rob and a friend for life." And that was true, and that is true. And so, but I wasn't seeking that out. That being said, when I got on set and started to learn the genre, I consider it great fortune that I cut my teeth in the horror genre, Brett, on that film, because you had legends in Sid Haig, uh, rest in peace, in Bill Moseley, in Ken Foray, uh, William Forsythe, Michael Berryman. Okay, so these guys have something very special in the genre, which I have not seen since. And what that is they have a they have an inherent essence about them where they invade in your personal space, right?
Right.
And they do this in camera, but it also shows up on screen, and you can feel it, and you can feel the other actor pulling away. You can, and they just have this special, and it's not forced or too much. It's just a perfect, it's almost a lean. And it's hard to explain, but I've never seen anyone do it as well as those four guys in particular, okay? And they
Right.
were all in that Super Bowl. They were all on that team, so it was genius. And I paid attention. I watched, and Sid particularly was great at it. Um, I got to work with Bill Moseley a lot. Obviously, he offered to me the idea because I'm like, dude, you're really talented, and you could do all kinds of things because he's very smart. He's a very intelligent guy, very well read, very well spoke, very quick witted. He's got a scientific mind. I mean, he could be an NCIS guy. He could be a coroner, or he could be a doctor. He could be an attorney or a detective. And I'm like, what? you're kind of in this arena. What? And he said, well, Lou, the thing is that here I get to develop a character, but in mainstream, I'm kind of told and pinned into what has to happen. So I guess this is where I really enjoy it more, and I recognize that now, and I see that the characters that we like to color outside of the lines get to happen in the horror genre. Now, that being said, since I've been in the game, let's call Devil's Rejects 2005 in the horror genre, and having done a lot of those films, I've watched the horror go from, oh my gosh, what do we call it? Torture porn
Yeah.
to um, creature, apocalyptic, ghost stories, and now we're in this hybrid of almost horrors is very nearly mainstream. It's almost after Sinners and Weapons, you could call those horror movies
Yeah.
that both got acknowledged in the Oscar nominations, obviously, and did very well. And they're being done. Uh, Gosh, how do I say this? I don't want to say smarter because that's not fair. I think all movies have a certain intelligence in just telling a story, but they're definitely uh, requiring you to participate more than just don't go in there. No,
Yeah.
under the bed. Don't go downstairs. Don't
Yeah.
stay out of the car. Look, he's right behind you. We kind of push way beyond that, and
Yeah.
so before this year, I was sort of clocking the idea that there were two camps. There was gore, what I call gore horror, which where it like the Terrifier camp, right?
Yeah.
Very slash and very and mayhem, chaos, and then there's the lore horror, which would be something like Smile, right, where it had this lore
Sure.
to it, and now I'm feeling like there's this hybrid, like I'm gonna outsmart you horror that's beyond hostile, or it's kind of hidden messages in the genre of
Yeah.
the industry. So some of you OGs are gonna like take offense because you're gonna be like, well, that's not a horror movie, and I get it, but I think if you're opening a hamburger stand, you should open it near McDonald's and Burger King because that's where people go,
Yeah.
Brett, to go see or to go eat hamburgers. And so if you're making very um, puzzled, you know, figure out figure out the puzzle horror type movies, then put it in the horror genre because
Of
that's where
course.
fans are. So my granddad used to say there's an ass for every seat. So I think there is. How's that?
Yeah. Perfect.
Another long answer.
That's what
Apologies.
we're looking for. Content. Um, would you say like horror's more self-aware, kind of, is what we're getting at? Than maybe it used to
Certainly,
be at one point.
certainly today than it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Let's put it this way: uh, if you're entering the Olympics in the bobsled event, and you are a Jamaican bobsled team, and you don't really have a lot of access to great courses, you're still in the Olympics and you're still competing against the very best and the Russians. So
Yeah.
if you're making a horror movie, you're now going against some of the best, right?
Yeah.
And you can't just throw some ketchup on the wall and a rubber hand and and expect it to land. You gotta step your game up today. And
Yeah.
I think the idea, well, horror's the place that I can get in and tell a story. I certainly think it was, but I think you have to be better than ever to do it today. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so it's funny you said that horror is something that found you. You didn't seek it out. What would you what has your relationship been with the community at conventions and everything. Now that you're such an iconic face of the genre, how has everyone been treating you?
Yeah, everybody is great, to be honest. You know, so like yourself, everyone is very well versed. Everybody is very enthusiastic, has
Yeah,
a sense of uh, not just understanding of the genre, but opinion, you know. And so
yeah,
it's like barbecue. Like, I like that, but it's a little too smoky, or I like that, but they're missing the sauce, or
yeah,
it's not about the sauce, it's about the cook. You know what? So I do like that all of the audience for the horror genre has a very specific opinion, and it's theirs, and it is it's well formulated, so I appreciate that. um I'm always amazed that uh people hold on to, like, people have seen these movies time and time again. So Devil's Rejects, for instance, arguably can be considered a cult classic. I'm going to plug this phone in.
oh yeah,
um
yeah,
and people have seen it and quote it
yeah,
regular 20, 30 times. They've seen this movie, and I'm so grateful. But I also realize they really like it, and they see something different every time they watch it, and that's
yeah,
amazing to me. So but the fans are great. I go out as often as I can, because it's a if I'm not doing anything, it's a great opportunity to get out. When I say not doing anything, I'm making a movie or
yeah,
on a television show. It's a great opportunity to get out and meet the audience, so you have a better sense of what the pulse is, and and what the opportunities, like, oh, should I be looking for a job that isn't more like Weapons or more like Sinners now? Oh,
yeah,
should I be, or maybe the zombie apocalypse movie that I was thinking about isn't as in vogue as it was 2 years ago. Maybe I should just go do the ghost story instead. Um,
sure.
so the audience sort of dictates a little bit what the taste is out there. So I think it's important to be out and amongst, for sure. And you
Yeah,
get to meet other filmmakers, somebody that might say, "Hey, I've got a job for you," or it's just great to see old friends. It's always great to see Bill Moseley somewhere, Michael Berryman somewhere, whether it's Danny Trejo or Danielle Harris or Felissa Rose is one of my dearest friends. I speak to her all the time, and they've got Scary Movie coming out very soon, which is
yeah,
this spoof on the Scream franchise. So I find all of that just a lot of fun, and I'm happy for everybody that's
yeah,
staying busy and getting a little piece of their stuff,
yeah.
for sure.
I actually,
Sometimes, like, I'm very social with David Howard Thornton and Damien Leone and the Levy brothers, but I don't ever expect to be in a Terrifier. You know,
sure,
we
yeah,
might have we might have a beer, and that might be the beginning and the end of that. Hey, good luck with your movie,
yeah,
guys. I'll see you down the road. I'm gonna go do this
yeah,
faith-based film as it goes. So, uh, but yeah, it is interesting. I do like being out and about. I think the audience on the East Coast always comes out more at conventions, larger crowds,
sure.
and the Midwest than they do on the West Coast. They see us at the gas stations, man. They see us at the
Yeah,
grocery store. They're kind of tired of us. And so
fair enough.
it's not, it's not like, hey, I'm going to go meet somebody. It's, I saw that guy, uh,
Yeah,
you know, getting at the car wash the other day. And
yeah,
so some of the West Coast conventions don't do as as well as the East Coast shows. That's the
Right.
truth. But I'm starting to do a few more like toy shops, like in-store appearances, and I think that's very interesting as well because some of these collectible shops are they're so cool. And
Yeah.
they've got so many obscure little detailed toys that people actually are collecting and looking for. And then I've done a few of these other things, Brett, like on Whatnot. They're sort of live online auctions, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be like Facebook Live or something, and those are fun too because you meet a lot of people. What I like about that opportunity is you're kind of doing this without people having to travel, um, pay for hotels, food, and entry fee into conventions. They can just hop online and bid on a picture or a Funko
Yeah.
Pop that's being signed. So that's kind of cool as well.
Yeah. I actually I was fortunate enough to meet Bill Mosley just a few years ago. He's an absolutely incredible guy.
Yeah, he's
Um,
great. Yeah.
yeah, I was able to talk to him for a little while, and I was the only one. It just stuck with me. It's stupid, but I was the only one who actually was paying to get an autograph and a photo with him and everything. And my brother
Wow.
and my girlfriend at the time just happened to be with me, but he still made it a point to introduce himself and talk to them, and that's you don't see that everywhere outside of the horror genre, which is part of the read. It's like tight knit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. All in all, we want to have good reputation so that people have a good experience like you did. And
Yeah.
that's important. That's important to me. That's important to Bill. And that's kind of important to pretty much everyone that I've met. There's not too many people that are jerks, so to speak. And,
No.
you know,
No. Yeah.
I hope, I hope, um, I hope we don't have too many of those people because, we want to keep it tight, man.
Yeah. So, of course, I mean, a huge portion of our audience know you from your role as Axel on The Walking
Mm.
Dead.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
Even all these years later, people still talk about the character, even though he wasn't there very long. How did that role come your way? Do you remember how you scored that?
Yeah, for sure. So originally we had all gone in to read for Merle, okay?
Okay.
And many of us had read for Merle, and it was the scene on the roof where he's chained, he has that monologue, and thankfully they found Michael Rooker to be perfect for that, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then a few weeks later, they asked us to come in to read for Merle's brother who didn't even have a name at the time and they didn't even have lines. They just said, read the monologue different than you did for the brother. And
Wow.
that was going to be Daryl. And thankfully, they figured out that uh, Norman Reedus would be good for that. And then when Axel came around, they had known me pretty well by this point, and they sent me some kind of fake sides, this conversation with T Dog about mustaches. And I did it kind of with a lot of humor, actually.
Yeah.
And it just stuck. It landed. They liked it. And so I was doing the Lone Ranger for Disney at the time. And I did have a big mustache. And I was sure they were going to make me cut that because that's so typical. Like you get a job and then they're like, we're going to have to shave your hair. And I'm like, no, I'm on this other job. I can't. And they were like, "No, no, dude, it's cool. We're happy with how you got what you got going here." And
Awesome.
I was like, "Okay, we'll see." And they let me have my mustache, and it was great.
That's awesome.
So Axel was really fun, and at the time when we all showed up, we weren't so sure, like as the group of the five prisoners for season 3 to start. We weren't sure how that was going to go, and they weren't really letting us know too much, but it kind of fell into place rather quickly. Um, One thing was they had been at Herschel's farm for season 2, so the movement out of that space and into a new kind of sanctuary at this prison was fun for the audience. It was also right, I think, when the show was still flying under the radar, not in viewership, but just in the fans' frenzy. Like we could still walk around in Atlanta and be okay, but like the next year it was on, like everybody knew who we were, and so it was great. I love that season that we were on. I thought we did a great job. Um, you know, I felt like Axel offered a lot of levity to the cast and the story. He could have lasted longer, I'd hoped, but
Yeah.
he needed to be a casualty of that war that the governor was gonna engage. So
Lou, it is
that was his
absolutely
demise. Yeah.
iconic.
Thank you. Yeah. When it came to that point, they weren't sure that it was going to be Axel, and so they were hemming and hawing as to who it was going to be. There were a couple series regulars that they were thinking about offing. They did come to me and say, "Hey, you're on the chopping block." I was pretty disappointed.
Mm.
And then when the word came out, "Hey, it is going to be you," I just realized, well, you got to do a good job with this. So they asked if there was anything that I had, would I want to go out with, and it occurred to me that when I saw the Zapruder tapes of the Kennedy assassination, President Kennedy headshot, how shocking that was. I said, I think
Yeah.
something like that. Also, you don't have to reanimate if you get shot in the head to become a
Yeah.
walker. I definitely did not want to go through the makeup of being a walker. And but some people love that. Michael Rooker loved that,
Sure.
and so yeah, I thought we did a good job with that shot. Like you know,
Oh
it
my
was a
god.
gut, it was a gut punch. Yeah,
I still remember watching it when it aired, and I was like, "Oh no way!" And
yeah.
it just goes into how incredible the character was. You were only around for a season, still. I was like, "No, Axel," you know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I
why
know. I
why
feel
do you think
like
people connected with him so much in such a short time? Do you
I
have
feel
any
like he
theories on
kind
that?
of wore his heart on his sleeve, so he said the things that everybody was thinking, and people liked
Sure.
that. And he was working so hard to sort of fit in and be a friend, and it was people, because I think I was doing a con like in Atlanta, a Walker Stalker maybe, and then I flew back to do the Talking Dead after the show, and so
Yeah.
I can remember having talked with people like, "Well, enjoy the show tonight," and they're like, "Okay," and they have me no idea that I was going to get killed. Like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, we look forward to seeing you on the show." I'm like, "Yeah, you will, you will."
Oh,
Uh, I think I'm in this episode, yeah. And so it was a lot of fun. I give the show a lot of credit for what they did, and then obviously for how many seasons they lasted, and the spin-offs. The show that just keeps on going, doesn't it?
oh yeah. Yeah. How many spinoffs are they on now? Five or six?
Yeah, it's kind of beyond. Um, and it's interesting because each of the spin-offs seem to have their own personality, so you can't say like, oh, that's just like The Walking Dead, because they're a little bit different. The Daryl Dixon show's different, and
Sure.
um, you know, the the show with Negan and Maggie is different, and so I give them credit for having new writers and different things. Uh, the show for me when I was there was always about Sheriff Rick Grimes and the decisions that he had to make, and all roads led through the sheriff. And when he left, something left with it. It became a kind of a
Yeah.
different show for me. So, um, but he was the goat. He was like our Tom Brady. He was so
Yeah.
good. Andrew Lincoln
Absolutely.
was he was exceptional. Yeah.
So, what was it like working alongside the cast members? I mean, specifically Andrew Lincoln, Norman Reedus, Melissa McBride, who you were with, I believe, seen with last. That's who you were talking to, right? When
Yeah,
it happened.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were
You know,
they all like?
she's great. I didn't know Melissa. I didn't know anyone on the show except for Norman Reedus. We had run around a little bit here in Hollywood, and so I'd known him a little bit. I was taken with like how ingratiated you became as a new cast member, how excited they were to have you. Andrew Lincoln was the first guy to shake your hand and invite you to be part of the team, and we need your help, and we need you to, everybody was pulling on the same side of the rope, and that was really eye-opening to me because that's not always the way it is on these television shows, particularly if you're the new guy. You're kind of just in, and you're kind of treated like a stepchild, and
Yeah.
whatever. But don't play with my toys. And this wasn't like that at all. And so it was wonderful. Melissa is so understated and demure and quiet and kind of shy and perfect. Like her reactions are great. You could say anything and she'll give you a perfect response, which
Yeah.
shows up so good on camera. And I think she made those scenes so fun that we did. And on the death, we had rehearsed like the physicality of how it was going to go down. It was the bullet in the temple was CGI,
Yeah.
and so I had to throw my head a certain way so that the hit showed up and the blood splat and some brains. Um, but other than that, we weren't sure, and so I decided that I was just going to become a sack of potatoes in her arms. I was just going to be so my blood was on her hands, and then she wisely uh, was able to just navigate my fall into her arms and use me as a human sandbag to hide behind,
Yeah.
which was genius.
That was total.
And
That was total improv.
yeah, it was great, And
Awesome.
so what we were trying to do for the day was not, I was trying to do everything but get shot that day to make it seem like it was, and so that when it did happen, it would come across very shockingly, which was a kind of a happy day and telling her the story and the idea of my brother and that son of a bitch. I saw a great meme today. Um, this is a I digress, but they were showing a picture of me talking to her, and then they cut to the guy sort of watching like you are, and then he kind of goes up into a thought bubble, and Dwight shows up, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh my god, that's they could be brothers," And so I like that.
That's funny.
It's kind of a great meme.
So then, just wondering if you ever thought about this. If Axel ever survived longer, where do you think his story could have went? Say he was around for another couple seasons, or who knows?
I don't know that he'd have gotten past Negan. Let's put it that way. I'm not sure that Axel would realize, um, having been exposed to a certain amount of violence in his upbringing, or just understanding being an OG like he was. I don't know that he would have acquiesced to getting down on his knees in execution at that point. Not because he was braver or stronger than Abraham or Glenn or Rick or any of those guys, but I think he understood that it wasn't going to work out well for anybody, and somewhere, um, he might have sacrificed himself. Where I'm trying to say, to start some sort of shit. I guess Daryl did try that in that scene and it didn't
Yeah,
work out. Um, I do think that Axel would have tried to help Herschel uh, at the prison when they were sick, had he
yeah.
not been killed, and just try to help save people um, from themselves turning. Um, but I don't see Axel getting beyond the Negan thing. But I do definitely think that he'd have been serviceable to the group as a friend.
Yeah.
Um, and as somebody that was trying to help survive and to look on the future optimistically and hopefully. I think he'd have offered hope as best as he could intellectually figure that out. Um, that being said, everything I just said, there was a school of thought that the fact that Axel wasn't who he said he was, a serial killer in sheep's clothing, and may have taken one of them, somebody like Beth, out in the woods for a mercy killing to end the apocalypse to God. All of that had been conjured up and conversed about, talked about.
I
Um,
saw those theories floating around. Yeah,
Yeah, I kind of reserved some fangs, keeping Axel buttoned up and just kind of maybe if there was a monster in the closet that we could release him if we had to.
yeah,
We never got to that point, but for the most part, I was trying to keep it colloquial and keep it friendly,
yeah,
uh, and likable for the
sure.
most part.
Yeah,
In the graphic novels, Kirkman's got Axel doing some terrible things with those two twin girls out in the woods,
yeah.
and not cool. So
No,
I did
brutal.
understand that could go that way.
Yeah.
If the boss said so, I'd have had to pivot and and make those choices. I'm glad that I didn't. I'm glad I went out with Axel being pretty likable.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, he's very iconic character even to this day. Iconic side character for the show. Um, so looking back on everything you've accomplished so far, it's really incredible seeing the impact your work has had on horror fans and just film in general.
Thank you. That's
Of
kind.
course.
Thank you.
So I wanted to talk a little bit more personally about your journey. Um, After all these years in the industry, what still excites you about this, about acting?
Oh, I think the process is still exciting. I'm still amazed at the courage that it requires for everybody, not just on screen, but camera operators and directors and writers and the whole village that it takes to make a product, whether that be television or film or verticals even at this point. But to be willing to collaborate and find the truth. So interesting because everybody's willing to stop what they're doing and offer or help in in building that the
Yeah,
truth of a scene, even if the truth is a lie. We're trying to tell a lie here. Let's find the best way to do that. um the makeup department will come in and say, well, maybe he's trying to hide the fact that he's dying of cancer. We should add some ashes, to his skin. All these things, it it's exciting to me to see people's want to help effort, which I think is basically human nature, and everybody's so professional and so uh, self aware of their uh, um, contribution and their skill set, how they can help. So I appreciate that. I'm amazed at when I work with an actor across from me their talent. Just
Yeah.
sometimes I just beam with pride that wow, I'm doing this with you. You are beautiful. And then I see the fear that is inherently natural. And I'm like, that's okay. Keep going. You got this. That's cool. You got this. I get it. And it's with everybody, whether it's, I have it too. You know, somebody would say, Jesus, Lou's done 100 movies and he was scared shitless in that scene, you know, and that's okay. I think that's right. I think that is the truth. And,
Yeah.
so I like that we're advancing in storytelling. We're continuing to tell the story, just like if it all fell apart and the grid went down and we'd be at the campfire, there'd be somebody that said, "Hey, you know, once upon a time," and they lived happily ever after, and there'd be a middle in there somewhere, right? And we'd
Right.
listen and then we might add in. And so I do think that we're still telling stories. There's a lot of different ways to tell stories, and we're coming up with new ways, shorter form, shorter attention span, but we're still turning the wheel in the storytelling element. Um, I'm okay with the new technology. You know, a hammer is a tool that you can build a house with, or you can do physical harm with someone. It's how you choose to use it, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
internet was going to be an awful thing. I've researched and read articles that when Edison had the light bulb, it was going to kill humanity because they would never sleep and people would die. Um, you know, light's been really important to us. The internet has helped us quite a bit. I think AI will be a tool that we'll use to serve as opposed to serve us as opposed to us serving it, so to
Yeah.
speak. So I'm looking forward to that. I like it. Weirdly, I think there's new horizons for me at this stage in my career.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I will be directing projects, writing projects, transitioning there. Um, you know, I had a nice baseball career and I went to acting. I've had a nice acting career. Maybe I'll go be a dentist. I doubt that. I have some stories to tell, so I'm going to tell them, and I would
Yeah.
encourage everyone to do the same.
Absolutely. Well, Lou, this has honestly been an incredible conversation.
Thanks,
You're
Brett. I
very, very
appreciate it.
inspirational, and again, I really sincerely appreciate you taking an hour of your time today to do this with me, somebody who doesn't have any legs of anything yet. So I
Not yet, but this is
not
where we
yet.
start, right? You're
Yes.
starting, and you know, you honor the process, um, and you swung, you reached, uh, and an opportunity came, and so it's what you do with that, and how you continue to grow, and give yourself credit, and it's important, you know, it's important what you do, it's important what we all do. So um so thank you, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for doing this. Before we wrap things up, just one final question. And I,
Sure.
like I said, I know this is you've been inspiring this whole time, but do you have any final inspiring words or advice for horror fans, Walking Dead fans watching this who maybe want to do this someday? Somebody who wants to get into acting.
Yeah, I think that thing, be authentic to who you are. Everyone, no one can walk out on their own story. Like, you'll tell a lot of stories that aren't yours or that you think the public wants to hear, but at the end of the day, you must tell your story. And I think the sooner you get to that place, the sooner you become Eli Roth, Rob Zombie, Quentin Tarantino. Tell your story and
Yeah.
be authentic to yourself. And you have something to say that we actually do want to hear. Don't ever say, I don't think anybody cares, because that's all we do is care. You know, that's what we're built to do is care. So, yeah, um, give yourself credit for having something to say, and uh, uh, I think I think being kind, I think kindness can never be. And when I say that, I don't mean like just being a nice guy, but the community likes to have good people in the business. So if you're a good person, what that really means is good things are going to come your way. So if you're thinking about doing good and good work, then good work's going to find you and it's going to do good by you. In other words, manifest that, you know, that which you like by not, I'm going to kick ass and I'm going to
Yeah.
crush the competition and I'm going to, none of that is, it might work. Obviously, it has for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I think if you really looked at successful people, you'd realize, wow, this person's really well thought and really uh, good natured. And hold on to the good nature that you have and don't let it get beat up. And also in that kindness, be kind to yourself.
Sure. Absolutely.
All of our self talk tends to be a little unfair and a little unnecessary when you're a little hard on yourself. So you're not going to hear it from many people. So you got to give yourself some good self talk because that too will bring good stuff into your world. So change the way you see things, and the things you see will change.
Very, very well said. Well, again, thank you, Lou, so much. I appreciate you being on the channel. Um,
All
I
right,
sincerely
monsters
hope
and
you have
madmen. Here we
awesome
go.
Madmen.
I will be one of you. Pick. I'll be one of either. Whichever one I want. Whichever one you want. Brett, it's your show.
We'll make you a Madman.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Well, Lou, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thanks so much. Take care, Brett. Take
Yeah,
care.
you
All
too.
right.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yep.